Hey everyone, and welcome back. We're diving into another phone review today, and this time it's the Samsung Galaxy S25 Plus. And we're looking at TechSpert's take on this one.
Ah, yeah. That's always an interesting perspective. Colorful, you could say.
Very colorful. So to kick things off, he had some pretty strong words about the design.
Oh, really? What was he saying?
He basically he said it was boring. He was like, it's essentially the same as the S24 Plus.
Oh, so no big changes there. That's kind of disappointing.
Yeah, and I think his exact quote comparing the S25 Plus and the S24 Plus was like comparing a cup of Pretty M coffee with a mug of hot mud.
Wow, okay, so he really wasn't impressed. I mean, does that mean that we've just kind of hit a wall when it comes to phone design? Like, how many ways can you really change a rectangle?
Yeah, it's an interesting thought, isn't it? Like, are we just stuck in this iterative cycle? I mean, what do you think? Do you think there's still room for like groundbreaking design changes in smartphones?
I mean, I'm sure there is, but it takes some real out-of-the-box thinking. And maybe a little bit of risk-taking from the manufacturers, too.
Totally. So anyways, moving on from the design, let's talk about the color options. It comes in your standard, navy and mint, but they've also got some bolder colors available exclusively online if you want something a little more eye-catching.
Ooh, okay, I do like a bit of color. But what about practicality? I mean, TechSpert always goes on about how slippery these phones are these days.
Right, and he did say that this one is no exception. Super smooth, and with those camera bumps sticking out, it's prone to wobbling on flat surfaces.
Not ideal. So are we going to see scratches galore then?
Well, it does have Gorilla Glass Victus 2, which is supposed to be super durable, but even with that, TechSpert's phone already had some scratches after just a week.
Oof, that's not a good sign. Maybe invest in a screen protector?
For sure. So let's move on to the software side of things. The S25 Plus is running on One UI 7 with Android 15, and this is a big one. They're promising 7 years of OS and security updates.
Whoa, that's pretty amazing. Like you're essentially future-proofing your phone with that kind of software support.
Yeah, it's a huge selling point for sure. Now, One UI 7 is very heavily integrated with AI this time around.
Oh, is it? That's interesting. How's it working out?
Well, TechSpert had mixed feelings about it. Some of the AI features are helpful, but others are a bit gimmicky, like the Now Briefing feature.
What's that supposed to do?
It's supposed to give you like personalized information, but the music recommendations were way off for TechSpert, like hilariously bad. He told a story about how it recommended Nickelback when he's a diehard metalhead.
Oh, no. Yeah, I could see how that wouldn't go down too well.
But on a more positive note, he did like the automatic sports scores on the lock screen. That's a pretty cool feature for sports fans.
Yeah, definitely. But even that had its issues, apparently. Scores disappearing mid-game and stuff.
It does seem like they're still ironing out some bugs with the software, but it does bring up a good point. Are we comfortable with AI kind of taking over our phones? Like, is that something we really want?
I think it's a trade-off. You gain convenience, but maybe you lose some control over your digital experience.
Okay, so moving on from the AI stuff, let's talk about the display because this is where TechSpert really started gushing. We're talking a 6.7-inch dynamic AMOLED 2X display with Quad HD plus resolution.
For those who might not be familiar with all that jargon, basically that means like a really, really nice screen. Super sharp, vibrant colors, perfect for watching movies and playing games.
Yeah, and a little tip from TechSpert, make sure you go into the settings and manually activate the maximum resolution because it's not enabled by default. You don't want to miss out on all those pixels.
Good tip. And is it bright enough to use outdoors?
Oh yeah, TechSpert tested it out in direct sunlight and said it was perfectly visible. He did mention, though, that the S25 Plus uses PWM dimming.
All right. That can be an issue for people who are sensitive to screen flickering.
Exactly, so something to keep in mind. Now let's get into the guts of this phone. It's rocking the Snapdragon 8 Elite 4 Galaxy chipset.
Whoa, that's a mouthful. But it sounds powerful.
It is. This thing is a beast, especially when it comes to gaming. TechSpert was really impressed with the performance, and the phone stayed nice and cool thanks to the improved cooling system.
Sounds like they've addressed the overheating issues that plagued some of the previous models.
Yep, and to complement all that power, you've got storage options ranging from 256 gigabytes to 512 gigabytes. So plenty of space for all your apps and games and everything else.
That's a lot of storage. So with all that power and that huge screen, how's the battery life holding up?
You might be surprised to hear this, but despite having a smaller battery than some of its competitors, the S25 Plus actually has pretty impressive battery life. TechSpert said he got through a full day with no problems.
What does a full day look like for him?
Like 6 hours of screen time, browsing messaging, taking photos, watching videos, the usual stuff. And even with all that, he still had like 35 to 40% battery left by the end of the day.
Wow. That's not bad at all. Seems like Samsung has done a good job optimizing the software and hardware to squeeze out as much battery life as possible.
Now, when it comes to charging, it supports 45W fast charging. Not the fastest out there, but TechSpert said it was perfectly adequate. He didn't have any issues with charging speeds using the cable that came with the phone. And he also mentioned that wireless charging worked flawlessly.
Okay, so charging seems to be a non-issue. Now, what about the camera? Everyone wants to know about the camera.
Well, we won't drill on this too much because, as TechSpert pointed out, the S25 Plus has the same camera setup as the regular S25, which we've already covered in a previous deep dive.
Just as a refresher for our listeners, what are we looking at here?
So it's a triple camera system with a 50 MP wide lens, a 12 MP ultra-wide, and a 10 MP telephoto lens with 3x optical zoom.
Okay, so pretty standard flagship camera setup. Anything new or noteworthy in terms of features?
Well, TechSpert did appreciate the fact that they repositioned the settings bar in the camera app. He said it makes it much quicker to access the different camera features.
Ah, yeah. Those little usability improvements are always welcome. But let's talk image quality. How did the S25 Plus perform in TechSpert's tests?
He said it has a tendency to overexpose shots a little bit, so you might end up with some slightly washed out colors.
Interesting. I wonder if that's just Samsung's image processing style. They do seem to prefer brighter images.
And portrait mode was a bit hit or miss as well. Sometimes it had excessive smoothing and unnatural skin tones.
Yeah, portrait mode is always tricky. It's hard to get that perfect balance between smoothing out imperfections and maintaining natural-looking skin.
But he said that daylight portraits generally turned out pretty good. Sharp details and more natural colors. The ultra-wide lens performed well too, and the telephoto was decent, up to 10x zoom. Beyond that, the quality started to drop off.
Makes sense. Digital zoom is never going to be as good as optical zoom. And what about all those extra camera features? Did he mention any of those?
Yeah, it's got all the usual Samsung stuff like expert RAW mode, pro mode, single take AI photo editing.
Any of those stand out?
He specifically highlighted the object removal tool in AI photo editing. He was really impressed with how effectively it could remove unwanted elements from a scene.
Oh yeah, I've seen some of those AI editing tools and they can be pretty amazing. It's like magic. All right, so camera seems decent but not groundbreaking. What about video?
So video is where things get really interesting, according to TechSpert. So tell me what's so special about the video on the S25 Plus.
Well, for starters, it can shoot in 8K resolution.
8K? Seriously, that seems a bit overkill, doesn't it? Like, who even has a screen that can display 8K?
True, not many people have 8K screens yet. But it's nice to have the option, right? Plus, it gives you more flexibility for editing. You can crop and zoom in without losing too much detail.
Okay, that makes sense. But how's the actual quality of the video? I mean, resolution isn't everything.
Oh, the quality's fantastic. TechSpert was raving about the audio and the stabilization. He said the audio was crystal clear, even when shooting in noisy environments.
That's impressive. What about the stabilization?
Rock solid, apparently. He said the footage looked like it was shot with a gimbal, even though he was just holding the phone in his hand.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. So no shaky cam footage then. Sounds like a dream for anyone who wants to shoot professional-looking videos without all the fancy equipment.
Exactly. But of course, there's always a catch, right?
Let me guess, low light performance.
You got it. TechSpert said that in low light conditions, the footage got pretty grainy and noisy.
Yeah, that's the Achilles heel of most smartphone cameras, unfortunately. Their sensors just aren't big enough to capture enough light in dim conditions. Did he have any other complaints about the video?
Not really. He did mention that it can record log footage, so if you're into color grading and stuff, that's a nice bonus.
Oh, cool. Yeah, that gives you more flexibility in post-production.
Yeah, and there's also an audio eraser tool, so you can remove unwanted sounds from your videos.
That's handy, especially if you're shooting outside and there's a lot of background noise. Okay, so main camera, video. What about the selfie camera?
The selfie camera's pretty solid too. 4K video at 60 FPS with HDR, pretty much everything you need for those Instagram stories and TikToks.
Decent quality then.
Yeah, TechSpert seemed pretty happy with it, except of course in low light. That's where it struggles a bit.
No surprises there then. So overall, it sounds like the S25 Plus is a pretty capable video shooter. Great stabilization, crisp audio, 8K resolution if you need it. Just be mindful of that low light performance.
Exactly. Now, shifting gears a bit here, TechSpert had some strong opinions about upgrading to the S25 Plus from the previous model.
Oh yeah, he basically said it would be a waste of money, didn't he?
Yeah, he called it bloody pointless, actually.
Well, he doesn't mince his words, does he? But I kind of get his point. If you've already got the S24 Plus, the upgrades on the S25 Plus might not be worth the price tag, especially considering the long software support that Samsung is offering.
Right, but what about people who are coming from an older phone, or maybe switching from a different brand?
Yeah, good point. What did TechSpert recommend for those folks?
He had a few suggestions. If you're looking for something affordable but still powerful, he's a big fan of the OnePlus 13. He loves the Oxygen OS experience and the camera technology.
And did he mention the Pixel 9 Pro as well?
Yeah, he said the Pixel 9 Pro is a great option if you're all about that pure Android experience and camera quality is your top priority.
Oh, and what about the Pixel 9 Pro X? I remember seeing that pop up in his review as well.
Yeah, he briefly mentioned that one too. Seems like it's a solid phone overall. But for budget-conscious buyers, he recommended the Xiaomi 14T series.
Xiaomi phones are known for offering a lot of bang for your buck.
Right. And for those who want a phone that excels in every area, he suggested the Oppo Find X8 Pro. It gets consistently high marks for its performance and its camera.
So many great options out there, it can be tough to choose.
It really depends on what you're looking for in a phone. What features are most important to you? What's your budget? Once you figure that out, you can narrow down the options and find the perfect fit.
Exactly. And that brings us back to the question that Techspert posed at the end of his review. He asked his viewers, what innovations or features would truly excite you in the next generation of devices?
It's a good question, isn't it? Especially now that smartphones are becoming so similar. What would it take to really shake things up and get people excited about new phones again?
Yeah, it's like we're stuck in this iterative loop. Small upgrades, minor tweaks, nothing revolutionary.
So what would a revolutionary smartphone look like? What kind of features or technologies would make you go, wow, I need that?
Tough question. Maybe a truly foldable phone, one that folds completely flat without any crease in the screen.
Or maybe a phone with holographic displays?
Oh, that would be cool. Imagine watching movies on a holographic display. That would be mind-blowing.
And what about battery life? A phone that can last for a week on a single charge?
Now you're talking. That would be a game changer. But it all comes down to imagination, right? Pushing the boundaries of what's possible.
Exactly. And that's where you, our listener, come in. We want to hear your thoughts. What are your hopes and dreams for the future of smartphones?
What features or capabilities would make you say, take my money?
Don't hold back. Share your wildest ideas, your wish lists, your tech fantasies. Who knows? Maybe your ideas will inspire the next big revolution in mobile technology.
And in the next part of our deep dive, we'll explore some of the current trends and emerging technologies that could shape the future of smartphones. Okay, so we've gone through all the details of this S25 Plus. What do you think? Is this a phone people should run out and buy?
That's a tough one. I mean, it depends. Like, what are you using now? If your current phone's still working fine, maybe wait a bit, see what else comes out.
Yeah, technology moves so fast. There's always something new just around the corner. Plus, this phone is not exactly cheap.
Right. It is a premium phone with a premium price tag. Some of those other options we talked about might be better value if budget's a concern.
Like that OnePlus 13 Techspert was really singing its praises.
Yeah, it does seem like a really well-rounded phone, especially for the price. But if you're a real camera enthusiast and you want the best of the best, well, the Pixel 9 Pro is hard to beat.
True, Pixel cameras are always top-notch. And if you're all about that clean Android experience, you can't go wrong with the Pixel.
Right. But if you need power, like serious processing power, then maybe look at the Xiaomi 14T series or that Oppo Find X8 Pro.
So many choices, it's almost overwhelming, but I guess that's a good problem to have.
It is, but it also means you need to do your research, figure out what's important to you. Read reviews, compare specs, watch videos.
And talk to people. Like if you have friends who are really into tech, get their opinions. Or go to a store and actually try out the phones yourself.
Yeah, get a feel for them in your hand, see how they work. But beyond all the specific models and specs, I think there's a bigger question here. Like, where are smartphones going? Are we just going to keep seeing these incremental updates forever?
It does seem like we're stuck in this iterative cycle. Small upgrades, minor tweaks, nothing really groundbreaking.
Right. So what would it take to really shake things up? What kind of innovation would make you say, wow, I need that?
Maybe a phone that can actually fold in half, like completely flat without any crease in the screen?
Ooh, that would be cool. A truly foldable phone. Or what about holographic displays? Imagine watching a movie on a holographic display.
That would be insane, but I think for me the biggest game changer would be battery life, like a phone that can last a week on a single charge.
And that would be amazing. Imagine not having to worry about your phone dying all the time. But I think it all comes down to imagination, right? Like, we need to think outside the box and push the boundaries of what's possible.
Totally. And that's where you come in, our listener. We want to hear from you. What are your hopes and dreams for the future of smartphones?
What features or capabilities would make you excited about new phones again?
What would make you throw your money at a phone? Don't hold back. Let us know your wildest ideas, your tech fantasies. You never know, maybe your idea will inspire the next big thing in mobile technology.
And when that happens, we'll be here to dive into it, explore it, analyze it, and share it with you.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of smartphones. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep pushing those boundaries.
The future of technology is in your hands.